4 by 8 by 7 foot tall lighthouse. You can see I'm kind of short, so it's way up here. Anyways, what we did, we just put together the steel frame, which is the first step. Basically, the parts go C, 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 basically C for all the outside bars. And then on the bottoms of these, we have B on each of the bottom 4, so there's 4 Bs. Then we have 4 A's for the 4 corners in the upper portion. And then in the middle, we have E at the bottom, and we have, well, I want to make sure I get this right, E and G for the top. And then, or, hold on, that's not G. G is the ones that go across this way. These you put on after you build the frame. G's go a long way, and then F's go over the top of them. When you go to put in your support weight, all right, this is the new lighthouse. The way it works is if the first thing that we're doing is we're building the metal frame, then we're going to put the canvas on the outside of it, then we'll go from there. To put up the metal frame, it's very simple. Just take and lay all the parts out. They're all alphabetical. The letter C are these poles that basically connect between each vertical support. Then we have B on the bottom and A on the top. So these two go together, and we've got 4 instances of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we have D on the top and E on the bottom. We've got 2 instances on that, the front and the back. And then up above you can see we actually have G, which goes this way, and then F, which goes the other way. And the way that works is when we go to actually hang our lights and all the equipment that has weight on it, we put them on the bar that goes on top of the other bar. That's important to note. You don't want to be hanging on this one because you actually have less support. Okay, the next step is to take your canvas and you want to undo all the zippers on it. Then when you do that, you have to find the bottom. Now here you can see that what we did is we took the bottom and we slid it underneath the metal frame. So basically we held this down, we slid the metal frame onto it, and we have the front part put in. Then what we did is we went around and we slid the frame in for the sides. Now the next thing we're going to have to do is take all that material and go underneath the back of the frame, and then we're going to start to bring it around the top. Okay, now at this point what we've done is we've taken all that material, we put it underneath the bar, and we pulled it up and around over the top. Now you can see the first thing we did is we made sure that this corner was in nice and tight when we lifted it up, and then we ran the material up to the other front corner, pulled it down, ran it across, did the same thing on this side. Now that we have the top and the bottom portion all filled out, the next step is going to be to zipper it up and get it enclosed. Now what we're going to do is zipper it around the top, which we just talked about. Now you have to be very careful around these metal corners. It helps if you kind of pull the material out with your arm and then start to zipper it shut. Well, you can see as he's zippering it, it's basically starting to close up the system. Now the only thing we have left is the bottom zippers, and we're almost ready to go. Okay, now that we've put in the outside, we've assembled the outside, the next thing we're going to look at is the inside liner, which isn't even mentioned in the directions, but you can see that there's actually little Velcro pads here, and the Velcro is right onto the pole to hold it in place, and it goes into all 4 corners. So you can see here we've actually Velcroed it in, and that should prevent any water leakage from happening outside the cabinet. Now on this unit there's also, try to get it in the light, you can see there's Velcro on the doors and on the top to hold down the flaps. The Velcro on the doors, there's one on either side, so it holds them closed when all said and done. There's also these little clips up top, and those clips, there's a Velcro strap that comes with it, and in this case what we did is we just used it to hold it on the inside, to actually hold the door open. However, I'm sure you could wrap it on the outside or whatever works for your application. So that's pretty much it as far as the lighthouse assembly. Thank you for watching. Okay, the next step is to take your light yo-yos and tie the yo-yo first to the little eye screw coming off of your reflector, and then later we'll hang it on the actual light track. Now at this point here we fully assembled the hydroponics system. You can see that there are 36 plant sites in total, which is just great. The way it works is each one of these sites is about 10 inches tall. There's going to be a net pot that's going to sit in there. The roots will grow down, and they'll even grow in between each site. And there's actually a serpentine pattern that, that attaches each unit. And you can see that at the very end over here, there's going to be a stop plug. And then basically the water will go from a water pump that's located in this main reservoir. There's going to be a water pump that's going to have a tube going around the back, and it's basically going to go into that first site. So the water will follow the serpentine pattern and go all the way back until it hits this bucket. Now, the way we design this is that discharge tube is precisely about 2.5 inches down on, or excuse me, about an inch down on the height of each tube. And the reason for that is because that's where the net pot is. So it's going to have the water right around the net pot line. So it's basically a deep water culture. In here we're going to have a really high level oxygenator, and we might put some in the circuit too after we test the dissolved oxygen levels and make sure that they're the correct point. Now when we have this system for sale, we're going to pre-build each unit, but we're going to have it so that you just have to add the PVC glue to connect the ends, so that way we can ship it in modules to make it easier for you to assemble, but not so big that we can't ship it. So right now what I'm doing is I'm filling up you know, in just one circuit, I'm just filling it up with water, and I'm watching to see if there's any leaks on the circuit, and so far we're looking good. Now once that fills up each one of these pods to the right water level, it'll start to dump into this bucket, and then I can just watch the height in the bucket as far as the water, and once it gets about 1/2 to 3/4 of the way up, I turn the water off. I've also been testing out the lighting system on the light track here. We have a 1,000-watt light connected with the light mover pulleys on the 6-foot light track going back and forth. Now the cord that goes to that, we had to test to make sure that we had proper distance to reach each end of the 6-foot light track. So far, so good. That's something that you have to play with a little bit. We're going to work on the cooling fans and other aspects next, but for now you can see how this unit is being assembled. When it comes to assembling your reflector, there is a little light wing portion that attaches to the outside of it. All you need to do is take the little screw and nut that come with it and put it through the metal frame first, and then after that put it through this part of the reflector and then the nut on the back, just like you can see over here. Okay, now we have our light wing reflector assembled. At this point, we're just going to take it and snap it right on top of our cool tube. You don't have to tighten these nuts with a screwdriver, you can do it with a friction fit. But you can see here on the glass tube where the reflector part actually ends. There we go. Now those little wings will help deflect light down and also you know, help us stay cool. Now you can see at this point what we're doing is on either side of the unit we actually have a ducting system. And we're taking the light yo-yos and we're hanging them from the S-hook, or the little S-hooks, from the bar that we centered in the middle of the unit, and then we're hanging our reflector down from that. Now on the reflector we're going to have ducting that's going to go to either end of the flanges on either end of the unit, and we're going to have duct fans that are going to be in between that are going to allow airflow through the circuit. Now what you need to do is make sure that when you have this bar here, that it's put in the center of the unit, and these S-hooks actually slide on. They will not come off. We have special S-hooks that do not come off when they're on the unit unless you bring them down to the end. So when you go to slide them on, you have to slide them on near the point where the bar is crimped on the end, and then they won't come off. That'll prevent issues down the road. Again, then you put on your S-hooks, you adjust the light yo-yo with the little tension wrench here, and then those go down to your reflector, and they allow you to raise and lower it with the right amount of tension. That's something you just have to play with by adjusting the wing nut. Okay, this unit here is called the mortgage lifter. What we have are 35 individual plant sites with oxygenation to each site. There is a serpentine pattern that the water circuit follows, so that way it doesn't skip to the path of least resistance. The water pump is pumping in through the back end. It goes through the circuit and then returns back here to this main water reservoir. The elbow is actually at the correct height to make sure that when the water is in here, it's actually about 1/4 of the way up the bottom of the net pot. That ensures that the grow cubes stay nice and moist as you're growing, and that your roots stay nice and moist as well. Now you can see the bubbling action going on at each site. We have a large heavy-duty 25-liter per minute air pump right here with 8 air tubes going down to the front of each circuit. We also have, for the lighting system, flexible ducting that's attached to three 400-watt lights that are both metal halide and HPS. It can either go with, you can use MH and VEG and HPS and Bloom. There's also several duct fans that are in the circuit that make sure this light is nice and cool to the touch. You can see I'm putting my hand on it and it is just barely warm. With these light yo-yo pulleys, you can actually bring the lights. With these light yo-yo pulleys, you can actually adjust the lights with the flexible ducting and bring them right down above your plants because they're cool to the touch. On these yo-yo pulleys, we also put some chain so that way the lights can get very close right down to your plants to get the most out of your light as you're growing and going. Once they get to acceptable height, you can take the chain right out and move the yo-yo pulley and hang it right up on the top. You can see the 3 400-watt ballasts we have in the back. Those are 400-watt ballasts, but they have a special dimmable switch that allows these lights to be run at 250 watts apiece. So we can either go 250, 500, 750 watts in total when you're starting out, and then dial it up to 400, 800, 1200 watts. And then there's also a feature for super high output if you really want to maximize everything. Now we have a cooling fan down in the right corner and a cooling fan up in the left-hand corner besides the ones for the light. There's also an ozone generator in the back, and we also have an optional carbon filter that comes with the unit. But this unit here will do, again, about 35 plants, and from each plant you can expect to get anywhere between 3 and 9 ounces of usable plant matter, depending on which varieties of plant you're working with and what you're doing in the way of your cycle times. And yeah, this is a whole new unit we'll be selling on eBay. And if you have any more questions, visit us at sunlightsheds.com. Now on this unit as well, we also have doors right here with, again, the same reflective material. And this unit actually completely zippers up and is more or less light proof. The only location on it where there's any kind of light leakage is you can see a little bit here by the vents where the hot air is going in and coming out.